So as the fatigue improved, so did my concentration levels, my energy levels, and my stress levels. And I actually found that I felt healthier than I did even before the infection started. And this realization and the changes I made really made me value how important it is to look at our own lifestyle and make those small changes to improve our health and the way that we're feeling. Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Mahin and I'm a physiotherapist working in pain management based in the UK. On this channel, we help people discover lifestyle strategies and tools to manage their pain and live healthier and happier lives, just as I do with many of my patients. At the end of 2020, I decided that I wanted to help more people improve their well-being through their lifestyle and hopefully reduce their need for medications or other interventions so that they can begin living the life that they want to lead without their health being a barrier. I decided to start the Wellness Puzzle and this YouTube channel to give myself an opportunity to make more of a meaningful contribution and to see if I can have an impact on reducing the prevalence of certain long-term health conditions. Today, I want to give you an insight into the two main reasons why I started this YouTube channel. So let's get into it. I was in my bed and all I could feel was a heaviness. It had been like this for weeks now and I couldn't get rid of it. I thought I knew what fatigue was, but I'd never experienced anything like this. I visited my GP once more because the blood tests that I had all returned normal. He asked if I was sleeping okay and whether this was a reason why I was feeling so fatigued. I said that I had been sleeping okay, but it didn't matter how long I'd been sleeping for, I was always feeling tired in the morning and throughout the day as well. I mentioned that I thought I might have chronic fatigue or ME, but the GP felt that the fatigue and the tiredness was most likely due to a lack of sleep. 2 weeks later, I was at the car park at work when I received a call from the GP. They told me that my blood results had come back largely normal, apart from one thing that had popped up. They'd found that there might have been a chronic infection that had been dormant for a long time, and this may be a reason for the fatigue that I was experiencing. They said that chronic infections like this can be dormant since childhood and certain life events could bring about symptoms. So they asked me whether there was anything that had happened significantly that could have brought this on. That night I went back home and I reflected on what could have been the cause for bringing on these symptoms, and it didn't take me long to find the answer. I looked back at the weeks that had led up to me developing the symptoms of fatigue and also the fever that I had initially. I had been getting up at around 5 AM to go to the gym. I had been then working long days at work, and then I'd been sleeping late and only getting about 5 or 6 hours sleep every night. At the weekends then, I was going to visit friends, or friends were coming to visit me, and we'd usually go out at night and we'd be drinking, and it would always lead to, a hangover the next day and a lot of fatigue and poor sleep off the back of that as well. This then had a knock-on effect into the week, and I was starting each week feeling tired and not really looking after myself from a sleep perspective. As my sleep started to worsen, I started to get more anxiety around sleep as well. So I'd be lying in bed at night and I'd be looking at the clock thinking, okay, well, I only have this amount of time to sleep. Right now I only have 4 hours to sleep, I only have 3 hours to sleep. And the more anxious you are around sleep, the harder it is to get to sleep at night. And I was in that cycle of increased anxiety around sleep, which is leading to more poor sleep, which is leading to more anxiety. So I decided it was time to make some changes, and I looked at areas within my life that I could potentially improve. I started with sleep because it seemed the obvious choice, and I really looked at how I could put myself in the best position possible so that I was ready for bed at night and I was feeling tired when it was time to go to bed. So I changed a lot of my daytime routines. I made sure that I stopped having caffeine in the evenings. I started off restricting that with no caffeine after 4. Gradually I moved that to no caffeine after 2, and then eventually no caffeine after midday. I also had a look at my wind down routine before bed, and I limited any phone or screen use, especially in the last hour before going to bed. I then replaced that with things like reading, so that I wasn't looking at a screen before I was going to bed, and just helping my body to wind down. After reading, I then started doing a little bit of mindfulness, which helped with the thoughts that were going around in my head. So I would spend about 5 to 10 minutes just going through some breathing and some mindfulness practices to help me just relax before going to sleep. And I started to see small changes initially, and quite quickly as well. There weren't significant changes. It took me about 3 months to see significant changes with my sleep. But I started to notice that I was able to go to sleep a lot quicker and stay asleep for longer as well. I also then stopped getting up early to go to the gym at 5 o'clock because I realised that probably wasn't too sustainable in the long term. So I actually then changed to going to the gym after work rather than before work, because waking up at 5 o'clock to get to the gym for 5:30 and then working a long day was just absolutely knackering me out. So I then changed that to the end of the day. So it meant that I was able to get more hours of sleep in as well. I've done a previous video on sleep that you can check out if you want to learn more about things you can do to help your sleep. But what's really important is to look at least getting between 7 and 9 hours of sleep, because most adults need that. I also started to make small changes in my diet just to incorporate more whole foods and eating less processed food and takeaways. And that had an immediate change in my energy levels, and just by eating whole foods, that actually made me feel a lot better. But this wasn't the answer. So things didn't improve straight away. And it actually took me 9 months to get over this fatigue. And it was a concern of mine that I had developed chronic fatigue syndrome, because I know that after infections, you can get post-viral fatigue that can lead to chronic fatigue syndrome. So this was something I was really, really aware of. And when it took me 9 months to get over the fatigue, that was really concerning. But after 9 months, I did find that the fatigue did settle down. And my sleep had actually improved before this. It actually took me about 3 months, as I mentioned, for my sleep to improve. And I actually found that it then took me only 20 minutes to fall asleep, where previously it had taken me, on average, probably about 2 hours to fall asleep. So this was a massive, massive improvement. And this is probably what helped with the fatigue in the long term as well. So as the fatigue improved, so did my concentration levels, my energy levels, and my stress levels. And I actually found that I felt healthier than I did even before the infection started. Now, that's not to say this is all plain sailing now. I still have moments where my fatigue creeps in, but now I know the signs to look out for, and I know what to do to help with those as well. I know when it's important to take a step back because I can see the signs of overdoing things, and I know what works for me now and how to manage those symptoms. And this realization and the changes I made really made me value how important it is to look at our own lifestyle and make those small changes to improve our health and the way that we're feeling. And this was one of my motivations to start the Wellness Puzzle. Anne was sitting with her head bowed down in my clinic. She was crying. We'd just been discussing the medications that she'd been taking to try to manage her back pain. Unfortunately, none of these medications were helping, and she was experiencing significant side effects like weight gain, and that's something she was really conscious about. We talked about her journey before she came to see me, and she told me that she tried lots of different treatments like injections, acupuncture, ultrasound, massage, and exercises. As well as her GP, she'd also seen physiotherapists, chiropractors, and an orthopedic surgeon as well. But none of this had helped. Anne had been to see her GP quite regularly, and her GP had tried different medications to help manage Anne's pain. But what she found was that any medication that she did start to take worked initially for the first few weeks, and then it stopped working. So she went back to see her GP. Her GP gave her a stronger medication, which worked for a little bit, and then it stopped working. And then that cycle continued. And she very quickly found that she was on this medication treadmill where she was put on higher levels of medication, which only works for a little bit before she was put on higher levels of medication. And with the increased strength, she was getting more side effects that were associated with them. And it wasn't just her pain that she was suffering from. Anne also had type 2 diabetes, she had high blood pressure, and she had insomnia as well. So I asked Anne if she had had any guidance about improving her health through any other means apart from medications. And she said that she hadn't. Unfortunately, I see people who have similar journeys to Anne every day. All the patients that I see in my clinic have been referred by their GP. When I look at their medication, I'm constantly amazed to see the amount of medications that people are taking and also the medical conditions that they're presenting with. It always makes me wonder, would it be different if people had access to information on improving their health earlier? And ultimately, would they be sitting in front of me today? And I always find the answer to that question is probably not. Thankfully, in Anne's case, after 5 months of working together, we were able to gradually reduce her off the medications that weren't helping and able to make small changes to her daily routines that were more effective at managing her pain. But having to do this with everyone is not sustainable. The majority of people I see daily have at least 2 long-term medical health conditions and are on at least 3 or more different types of medications. Similar to Anne, when I ask them if they've had any guidance on improving their health other than medication, most people say that they haven't. Now, the point I'm trying to make here is that it's never too late to improve your health and well-being, even if you do live with a long-term condition. But health systems around the world are under pressure, and this has not been helped by the coronavirus pandemic. We find that actually now appointment times are reducing, and because of the reduced appointment times, it's far more challenging and time consuming to have a discussion around changing lifestyle than it is to prescribe a medication. And as medical care is advancing, it's becoming far easier to take the passive option than it is to take the active one. And this is the way that we as society and our health systems have become over-medicalized. The intervention that's given, whether that's medication or an injection, may plaster over the issue for a while before it returns. returns, and then we return and seek another intervention, which works for a while, and then again, the effects of that diminishes, and that cycle continues. Now, of course, this is not sustainable in the long term for individuals and also for health systems. So to ease the pressure on our health systems, reduce the risk of disease, and improve our health in the long term, we need to take control today and begin living the life that we want to lead. So friends, to help start making small lifestyle changes today, check out my custom and lifestyle playlist, which I'll pop up in the top corner now. It goes through the 5 pillars of health and wellness that I have, which is diet, physical activity, sleep, mental well-being, and social connection. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next week.